Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Paul K. Lemire. This is Your City, Your Voice, coming to you live from downtown Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, in the studios of 4680Q Radio on this beautiful, beautiful day. It's over 50. That's why I don't have a hat on. When I need a hat, you know it's under 50. And look who I have in the studio today, Mr. Chris Rigas.
How you doing?
We're going to have some fun here today because when Chris and I get going, I just adjusted the camera there. Sorry about my tabernacle right in your face. But we're going to be discussing a few things today. So stick around. It's going to be a fun time. And we're talking about the federal budget, which is being dropped today, later on today, usually after the markets close, so that they don't crash the markets with their crappy budget. So we have to look at that. And then we got the regional budget. We got the federal budget. We got the city budget. We got the fire budget. We got the NRP. We got lots of budgets. And you know what? Every time a budget comes down, Chris, what happens to the taxpayers?
We get screwed. We get screwed.
Boom.
That's it.
Bam.
They give it to us.
Well, you know what?
At least for the last 10 years, anyways.
Well, the good thing is that you don't have to get screwed with your car. You can take your car and be proactive in the Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop. You can get them to take a look at your car before winter hits. We have this beautiful day today, but you know what's coming. I saw the weather, and there's this big low coming in, and it's supposed to bring some really goofy weather. As a matter of fact, the jet stream is dipping down into Florida. So all these Florida guys, they're going to have iguanas dropping out of the trees again. You don't have to go through that. Just get your car to Wild Bill's. Ken Hunter's going to get your car on his diagnostic equipment. He's going to make sure it's running tip-top. Make sure your defrosters work, your heater works, your brakes are okay, your tires are fine. He's going to go through all that for you and make sure that at the end of the day, there's Tim Shafley out there. At the end of the day, he's going around in circles. His chair must be stuck. At the end of the day, your car's going to be running tip-top. You won't have to worry about breaking down in that crappy November rain that you always get. And he has a full body shop. So if you get in a wreck, take your car in there. He's going to fix it up, get it back to you in tip-top condition. You can't lose when you take your car to Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop. Go to wildbillsauto.ca. And you know what? While you're there, jump over to YouTube, go to Paul Lemire or Your City, Your Voice. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 200 before long. 1 year we have an election, Chris.
Yes.
And we want to make sure everybody's in tune. They know what's going on. So you have to subscribe. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave comments. We'll talk about them on the show later on in the week here. Anyway, I have two other sponsors still. We'll talk about them later. Pete's Pizza on Victoria Avenue, Hammer Machine Company. So if you have a comment during the show, I have this other phone now, Chris. Look at this.
Wow.
And I can get text messages.
2 phones. Paul's rolling now. He's got 2 phones.
This is like a big rock show here. I got 2 phones. You can get in on the action and just give us a text message at 289-994-7560. Give us a comment on whatever we're talking about, and we'll talk about it on air. Right, Chris?
Yes, sir.
It's not a problem. So, okay. So, since they're dropping the Canadian budget today, we might as well talk about the Canadian federal budget first. Now, this budget was supposed to come out in the spring, but these incompetents couldn't figure it out. So they delayed it to the fall, and in the meantime, they probably spent about $100 billion. Our deficit's $2 trillion now or something, but he's planning to run another. Look at this lunatic. I'm not talking about
the budget too.
Yeah, he knows about the budget. He's running by talking to himself. He's planning to run a $72 billion deficit this year. So add that to the existing $2 trillion. It's ridiculous how this is deficit spending, which is a nightmare for any country. You can't go into that much debt. Our debt service, in other words, paying the interest, is going to be more than our tax revenue. So that's crazy. And your debt, every single person in Ontario, your debt is $65,000 the day you're born right now. Now, Poilievre wants to hold the deficit at $42 million, as well as eliminate the industrial carbon tax. Quebec wants a significant increase to health transfer payments and a boost to OAS payments, old age security. Now, these are bribes, of course, that Carney's going to use. He's going to give them that so they vote for him to pass the budget. The NDP says austerity attempts will be opposed, so they don't want him to cut anything. And any of these parties can get the Liberals over the finish line and have the budget passed. Chris, is there going to be a non-confidence vote today or what?
No, there will not. There will not be.
Why do you say that?
Because Canadians don't want an election. Conservatives know that. The NDP can't afford one, and the Bloc Québécois doesn't really want to have one now either. They're just trying to extract what they want. There's not going to be a no confidence vote because there's no way that. I mean, I'll be honest with you right now. The Liberals their thinking is they're going to tempt the parties to topple them because they think now is the time to have an election so they can get a majority and do what they want for the next 5 years. I don't necessarily, the polling doesn't necessarily support that at this time, although it is close because of the way ridings work out. Because they feel that there's this backroom deal between the Greens, the NDP, and the Liberals, who have said, we won't run candidates in this riding, and then our votes will go to you, and blah blah blah, and they're trying to work behind the scenes to get the Liberals a 5-year majority, even though Canadians did not vote for it. So you see this underhanded stuff that it's always about more power with the Liberals, always constantly clawing away to try to get more power, inch by inch, person by person. And I don't doubt they effectively have a majority anyway with the NDP, the 3 MPs. I highly doubt that the NDP is going to continue as is for now over this government. What they'll do is, if the polling goes very much in favor of the Conservatives, Carney will make them a deal, make them, probably offer them cabinet positions to abandon their party and come over to the Liberals, or to have an agreement between them and them to ensure that they're going to maintain thing. The best scenario for Conservatives is that we kind of sneakily have this 2 or 3 point lead in the polls, where the Liberals think that the vote margin is going to play out in their favor. But, it's kind of like an underground support that doesn't report. So if you're a Conservative supporter, do not tell the pollsters that you are a Conservative supporter. Let the Liberals think that they're in charge the whole time. Let's get a no confidence vote maybe a year from now on the next budget or on the next issue. And then let's just take the House back. Let's have an election and get these guys out of there. Let's let them fall flat on their face for another year, because that's what's going to happen. It's called short-term pain for long-term gain. So we can get rid of these guys, because these guys have been in there for now. It's going to be the 11 years. They've been sucking us dry, deficit after deficit. They couldn't get a budget out. They got it out now. And I'm unaware, is this deficit proposed for next year, or is it this past year?
Well, for this past year is probably maybe more.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because he's been spending money.
So I don't know what this budget is addressing. Is it the budget that's is it going to include the spending that's already happened? And then, or is it like we have a year in Canada that our government just was able to spend whatever they felt like?
Well, they just spent whatever they felt like, because Carney's been spending like a drunken sailor on shore leave.
Well, but where's the accounting for that? I haven't seen there's no.
Well, there won't be.
Yeah, well,
there won't be any accounting for it.
Where's the accounting for it? I just want to see where the dollars and cents go. So next year,
the UK military, to beef up the UK military, 2%,
$13 billion for
NATO,
for houses built by Brookfield.
Yeah.
How much went to Westinghouse?
I think $80 million Brookfield made from the British Columbia government.
All these modular reactors and the rehabilitation of the nuclear plants. It's Westinghouse. It's a Brookfield company.
Yeah, and then they gave $4.5 billion to Ukraine, and they're giving $4.3 billion back
to Brookfield. Yeah, they got the contracts there for rebuilding. $4.3 billion.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody find it a little fishy? I haven't heard anybody talking about this, but and I have to bring it up to people because they just don't. I think people just don't pay enough attention to Canadian politics. They're too busy, fantasizing about the guy down south, but they don't pay attention to their own thievery. So everywhere this guy goes, Carney, he goes into a country, they turn around, and this country 3 or 4 days later, there's an announcement of a contract with Brookfield. They went to go meet Trump, where Trump said, "Hey, I think Carney's going to be very happy. We're going to come up with a deal," and then sent him home with no deal. And had Carney telling him, "Oh, I wore red for you today, Donald." And when he got into the house, I mean, that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen a leader do. I wore red for you today.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they got to give him this. They gave Westinghouse, after he left there with no deal for Canadians on tariffs or never made a deal on trade, and they're going to give Westinghouse, which is Brookfield's nuclear company, an $80 billion contract. So Carney did pretty good over there. He made some good deals, but not for us. For his shares.
That's why he's a billionaire. And Canada's
we don't know if he's a billionaire. He's got them all in offshore. We don't know, and we don't know what he's got.
We don't know what he's got, but he dodged $5.8 billion in taxes. So I'd say,
well, that's Brookfield dodged that, but we don't know what he has personally. I'm sure he's got a good portion. I'm sure he's going to try to pad that as much as he can, but he's got it all offshore. Look at the guy's an international. He was an international banker. He knows all the ins and outs of the system. He knows where the sneaky parts are. So that's where he's got his money. We're never going to find it. We're never going to see it.
Jeez,
we don't know how much he's got or how much he's going to get.
You think he'd help Canada?
Zelensky just bought an $80 million ranch in Wyoming.
Well, of course,
900,000 acres,
and we paid for it.
Yeah,
Canada paid for that.
900,000, $79 million, 900,000 acres.
He's another billionaire
in Wyoming. So, well, that's what I'm saying. So, where's all his money going? Where'd it go? I don't know. Anyway,
the $72 billion is just for 2026. They're going to run that.
Oh, that's 2026 going forward. I see.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that at the end of the day, it's probably going to be double that.
I just want to see the reconciliation so far in 2025. I mean, we don't know because there was no plan. I mean, we have Trudeau's planned spending for 2025, right? But we know Carney added on to that.
Oh, lots.
So, I mean, where is it? Where's the accounting? So, if he's doubling the deficit for this past year and this year going forward, and we know, so we know from experience, COVID wasn't that long ago. It was 5 years ago. We know what happens when you spend money unabated more than you're taking in. Inflation happens, and it happens pretty bad. So when you do that and you have inflation, guess what next happens? Interest rates go up in order to counter inflationary pressures. Because the answer, according to bankers, is if your tree has too many leaves, you set it on fire. Right? They don't they don't make recommendations as to austerity or thinning of the branches. Yeah,
maybe we should just prune the tree.
No, I don't know. No, they want to set it on fire. Okay, let's burn the economy down, so that way we can slow it down from growing. So that's their answer. That's the bankers' answers. Let's set it on fire in order to stop it from having too many leaves. So at the end of the day, inflation is a tax because as things go up, you're paying more taxes, wages got to rise, all this other stuff, and it just creates more revenue for the government. They need that in order to deal with the debt. But that's what happens when you have low growth. We have terrible growth over 10 years. We've doubled our debt. We've had 0.5% GDP growth over 10 years. Now, I can tell you that that's unsustainable. So if you're overspending every year, okay, our budget's about 500 billion something, 510 billion. Now, I'll tell you, in 2018, it was about 320 billion. So we've increased our budget, okay, year over year to 500 billion a year. When you're spending that kind of money year over year, you're putting that in. Now, you have to understand, you're putting that into the economy. You're putting 10% more year over year. Let's just say on average, 50 billion a year. You're putting more into your economy than you are getting back. And your economy is only growing at 0.5%. Okay? You are in a recession. So at the minimum, the way GDP is measured, if you put 50 billion more into the economy than exists, if you take that money, just invent it out of the blue, out of thin air, and you put that in, the way GDP is measured, that should result in at a minimum 50 billion, at least an equal amount of growth in your GDP, at least that much. And then if you couple it with inflation, so if your inflation is 2.8% or 3% or whatever it is, if that inflation is now in your economy 3% every year, your GDP naturally should be 3% higher because all the cost of goods and exchange of goods is 3% more. So every transaction, GDP measures every transaction. It doesn't measure net wealth or net growth in profit, right? So you should, at a minimum, get 3% growth with inflation as well. But we're growing at 0.5%. So we've been in negative territory. I would just want you to go back to when we had growth higher than interest and spending. You have to go back quite a ways, okay? And I think you have to go all the way back to 2014 for that.
Martin.
No, not even Martin. I think it was Harper in 2014.
Harper?
Okay? So you would have to go back to then in order. So what happened when Trudeau came in? And it took 3 or 4 years before we start to feel the effects of his overspending and non-growth policies. And we started to feel it in 2018, 2019. Now COVID hit, and what COVID did was accelerated our feeling of it, because we had this. We didn't have to, but we did. We spent so much money to try to mitigate it. So now we're in the situation we're in. We're in a downward spiral where our revenues we're getting to the point in Canada where our purchasing power parity is going down because our dollar's being devalued. We have too much. Too much money being printed. We have unnecessary spending. There's no real growth in the economy. So you get yourself in such, and everybody wonders, well, why is just all these poor people? And it's capitalism that's causing it. No, it's the socialism that's caused it over the last 10 years. All these programs handing out money, that's what's caused it. And it's inflationary. And what you don't understand, what everybody doesn't understand, they must understand it, is that inflation hurts poor people the most. The lower income of the thing. And government spending and inflationary practices hurt the lower income people exponentially more than the guys who make a ton of money. It helps the guys with assets. Guys with assets love inflation.
Right.
Corporations, yeah. Walmart loves inflation. They make more money.
The prices go up.
And more people shop at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they have to, or the dollar store.
So your dollars
can't afford anything else.
Your dollar's worth less. You can't buy as much, and you're dealing with a higher cost of living. Figure that one out. That's the way it works. Anyway, I'm done with that rant, sir.
well, I saw that somebody from the Restaurant Association, and all this affects you directly. So I want your comment on this.
Sure.
They said what they would like to see the federal government do is take away the HST. Get rid of the HST off of food in restaurants, so you don't have to worry about that. Do you think that is going to help anything at all? Would it help your restaurant?
Sure, if you don't have to pay a sales tax on goods, it's going to help. But what does that do to overall economics? I don't know. How do you take? I think the HST is. Last figure was 35 billion net for the government. I don't know, maybe more. How do you take that out of the budget at this point?
No, you just put it on the deficit.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, right? So they're not going to.
How do you replace?
It's not they're going to reduce spending. So, and I think yes, a better solution maybe is to reduce it, right? Because the issue with percentage taxes is that inflation actually rewards the government, right, to be bad spenders.
Yeah.
Right. So, a hamburger costs $10 and then you get 13, the government gets 13% of that, and then it costs $13 because of inflation. And then the government gets 13% of that.
So you get 30% more.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so that's the thing. It rewards the government for being bad spenders. So if somehow you were to say, let's say a gas tax or whatever, or any other tax, if you were to tie it to, let's say, HST has to come down percentage based on inflation. You can say, oh well, if inflation goes up 5%, HST comes down 1%. You know, I mean, but that's, you have to get the provinces to buy into that too, especially the ones that have the harmonized sales tax. So, government could offer rebates. They don't give us anything for collecting their tax money for them.
No.
Right. So, as far as businesses go, and it's an accounting headache, right? So, I don't know, like, if the tax was reduced and there were some other things, it was tied in a way that, reduction as opposed to inflation, like fluctuates with inflation and whatever. I think maybe that's a solution, but I think it'd be maybe too complicated to do. I don't know. Look, like I said, I'm in favor of no tax. So if you want to get rid of all tax, get rid of it on everything. I don't care. The no sales tax on everything would save a lot of people a lot of money.
I think their mindset was that if they didn't charge it, restaurants would get busier because people wouldn't have to pay that. It'd be more affordable for people.
Okay, but why just restaurants then? Why not? If you really want to boost the economy and spending, and you want to save people money, why not just get rid of it on everything then?
That's what I would like to see.
So why like sure, yeah, just do it on restaurant spending and everybody. Great, no problem. I'd love that.
That's what I mean.
Give it to me just exclusively on restaurants. Sure, no problem. But listen, I'm not a greedy guy. If you just want to help everybody, get rid of it on the whole thing, on everything. If that's so much of a, because so the GST portion of HST is 5% in Ontario. The government, that would come off. And then it would be up to the Ontario government to buy in to get rid of that too. I don't think they could. Yeah, I don't think that they would, because they've never have. It's been there forever. But get rid of the GST or the HST. I look, it could be a good growth stimulator. Less tax is always good for that. In my personal opinion, if you want to help the lower income people, the number one thing the federal government should do would be raise the personal exemption to $30,000 a year, right? Rather than sitting, I think it's at 16 something or 17 right now. I can't remember, but raise it to $30,000 a year or $35,000 a year. That means anybody who makes $35,000 or less, $35,000 or less, pays zero tax, federal income tax, anyways. So the provincial government in Ontario has already gotten rid of that, unless you make up to a certain point. But the provincial government has said no tax, no provincial income tax on anything under people who make $30,000 or less, or up to 30,000. And I think that takes you up to, I think if you make until about $150,000 a year, you don't have to pay any tax on that first 30,000 provincially, which is, I think it's 3% now, 4%. I'm not sure what the provincial income tax rate is today, but but anyways, so the federal government would do a lot of help to a lot of people by doing that if they raised the federal income tax exemption to $30,000 as opposed to sitting at $17,000. Instead of giving everybody all these programs, handouts and whatever. Listen, if you work and make money, you get to keep it up to $30,000. And if okay, fine, the guy who makes a $500,000 or $1 million a year, he doesn't need that exemption.
No,
but who cares? Like, at that point, it doesn't really matter anyways. But there aren't that many people making that kind of money anyway.
Well, see, there's what Trump did in the States. He took the tax off tips and off overtime. Yeah, which helps people, right?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care about the tax on okay, so it's income, whatever. I don't care. People claim it, they don't claim it. That's. Yeah, I mean, if they pay it, they pay it. If they make it, they pay it. I don't care. Like, if you want to help out the average individual, it's not just, I'm not talking about waitresses or workers or whatever. I don't even care about the overtime thing. You work personal exemption up to $30,000. Start the first tax bracket at $30,000. Okay, it's time. I mean, you've had so much inflation over the last 10 years, so it's time to raise it at a proper level. Okay, so and I think that would go a long way to curing a lot of this food struggles that families are having and people are having.
Well, also they've raised the minimum wage to $17.50.
Yeah, minimum wages.
But that gets you up into a tax bracket so that would help them too.
It help
right?
them too,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm in complete disagreement with minimum wage.
I agree there.
I don't think there should be a minimum wage. I think it's too high. But at the end of the day, the market determines what your wage is. It should be. Okay. A minimum just raises the cost of everything, and the cost of goods going up. It's an inflationary pressure, and it's a systemic inflationary pressure because your minimum wage goes up, and you're paying a percentage of CPP, EI, WSIB, tax, all on those raised rates. And as a business owner, you have to match or put more in. Okay, so you're paying all that. The government is rewarded for that, and so the goods go up in price at the corner store, at the grocery store, everywhere else. Everything goes up in price because the minimum wage has gone up. Then who's affected the most by it? It's the minimum wage worker, because so the price of bread has to go up now another 50 cents to compensate for higher minimum wage of the grocery store. Well, guess what? The guy buying the bread at the minimum wage is now saying, well, I'm paying so I'm making a couple $100 more a year because of a 20% minimum wage increase. Okay. But the price of bread I use is up a couple $100, and the price of food is up, I think. So my grocery bill is up a couple $100 a month rather than a couple $100 a year. It doesn't, so it's never in proportion. That's why it always affects the bottom end of the income earners higher, more than the top end. Top end people don't care about minimum wage. They don't.
No, I mean, let's face it. We always pay for these kind of things because the big businesses, they don't eat it; they just charge you more. So who's paying at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, the consumer, but the guys who are already on the margins, who are struggling to pay their bills, they're the guys who get affected by minimum wage increases, and generally those people are the ones who are on minimum wage to begin with. So you give them 20 cents, but then you give them a couple $100 a year extra in their minimum wage increase. But then you're taking it from them, right? And then on top of that,
more.
We have a 15% student unemployment rate right now in Canada, young people. Okay, 15%. So owners like myself or anybody else. So when we hire people, we are investing in a person, right? Because you have to train them, so it's an investment, right? Exactly. And if that investment becomes so expensive, so students, they don't stay with you for more than a few months because they work in the summer, or maybe they come back the following summer. Maybe they can move on to something else. Maybe maybe they're good workers. Maybe they're not. So you're spending time and money to train these kids, and then they don't stay with you. So what do you do as an owner of a business, or especially a larger one that has multiple employees that you're bringing in people? So you avoid hiring the students because it's too much of an investment for someone who doesn't stay. Right?
That's true.
So that's a business cost factor that you are thinking about. I don't know. I just there's a lot of reasons to say, let's do this and not do this. But you got to look at things rationally and not emotionally. Emotions kind of tend to, yeah, sure. Everybody wants everybody to make a lot of money. That's an emotional argument. I want everybody not to be poor. I don't want to see any homeless people. I don't want to see anybody at a food bank. I don't want to see anybody doing that. Okay. And, oh, yeah, we should just make the minimum wage higher and that'll solve that. But has it? It hasn't. It's gone up and it hasn't solved it. And you can blame whatever you want to blame on it. But markets react the way nature reacts. You light a fire, there's carbon in the atmosphere, trees grow more leaves. That's what happens, right? So you raise minimum wage, guess what? There's less young people working because they are entry level workers that you have to train, and you can't invest in training them in someone. You can't invest that kind of money training somebody if they're not going to stay with you, right? So then they get no real world work experience. They aren't a thing, and they have trouble adjusting to the work environment as they move through life, right? So, anyways, it's like I said, there's a big societal argument to be had, and there's the emotional argument, and there's the rational argument. I try to tend to be on the rational argument.
There you go. Now we're going to move over to the regional budget because That's coming up, and they've already been talking about that a lot.
Yeah.
So let me get to my second sponsor. Then we're going to move over to that, and then we're going to go to the city budget. So we're doing three sections here, and we're going to talk about other things in between. My second sponsor, Pete's Pizza on Victoria Avenue, and if you want a good pizza, it's got to be consistent. And to be consistent, you need to have the recipes down where they're made the same all the time, so there's no variances. That's how you get a consistent pizza or cake or anything for that matter, right?
Right.
All right, okay. Chris owns a fire hall restaurant. He knows about consistency.
Absolutely, consistency is the key to business. So if you find somewhere consistent, go to that place.
There you go. So they use the Mancini family recipe for their sauce, their crust. So that's always the same. Been tried and true for 40 years. Then they know how to put the cheese and the sauce together in the right ratios on that beautiful crust. Cook it to perfection with fresh toppings. You got yourself a winner. And that's what Pete's Pizza does consistently. And it doesn't matter what store you go to, the one on Victoria Avenue or the new one that opened up on Thoroldstone and Kayla Road. Either one, you're going to get consistently good pizza. But they also make great wings and poutine and steak and cheese poutine and panzerotti. They have a menu that folds out like this that's got so much stuff on it. No matter what you like, you're going to be happy when you order from Pete's Pizza. Both stores, it doesn't matter. They have the same recipes they use, and they're both really, really good. How do you get one of these beautiful pizzas, or anything else for that matter? 905-374-2222, or you can go to their website, petespizzavictoria.ca, and you can order off the website. They use Dine, they use Skip, they use all the services. So you want a pizza. You want one tonight. So what are you going to do? Pick up that phone and give them a call. Go to the website and give them a call. You're going to be happy. You're going to be impressed, and you're going to get a consistently good product. Pete's Pizza, Victoria Avenue. Tell them Paul from Your City, Your Voice sent you, and they're great sponsors. So don't forget to support our sponsors. Thank you very much. Regional budget's supposed to be set at 3.5%. That's what Bob Gale said. We want all departments come in at 3.5% this year, and they voted yes. That's what we're going to do. And just after that happened, the Niagara Regional Police come up with an 11.5% increase, okayed by the board. Still got to go to council. Going from $213 million to about $240 million this year, almost $250 million. That's going to knock the snot out of the 3.5%. Are they going to get this?
I don't know, but here's the deal. When you got as much crime as we do, you're going to have police boards try to take advantage of the situation and requesting higher funds, and the public's going to give in because they want that taken care of. The problem is that doesn't solve the issue. The feds have to solve the issue by keeping people in jail.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
So, there's no amount of money that's going to solve crime if you don't keep criminals in jail. That's just the simple truth of the matter. And so this is the problem with liberal policy. We have a constantly expanding government. We're going to have a constantly expanding police force because of the crime that's being committed. I mean, how many murder investigations have we had? We had 15 murders here in 2024, right? Probably in the Niagara region.
Maybe more.
You know how much those investigations cost, man hours? Huge amounts of money. We're having shootings. We're having have to call out ETF unit for multiple weapons situations. It's getting ridiculous. So if you don't keep these lunatics and these
maniacs,
these criminals in jail, you spend more money on policing. So we should actually demand from the federal government direct funding for our police, rather than have us foot the bill directly through our property taxes. Let's spread it out over the whole country. Let's get people upset, because let them have to deal. And rather than us be upset at our municipal politicians and our local police board, let's get upset at the federal government that's causing this problem. Okay? Because crime is going up. And I don't care. You can use this crime index or whatever serious crime index that it's a baloney piece of information that police services use to say how good of a job they're doing, but it's not telling the truth. Okay, and then on the other hand, the crime is up. Crime is up, so they say we want more money, and everybody knows crime is up, but everybody's trying to say it's not. Just give us. We should demand from the federal government policing, direct funding for policing, not to the region, directly to the police department. We should take them off our budget and put them on federal budget. That's it. Let's federalize our police forces all across the country. The way they have it in France, like France is a national police force. Greece is a national police. Like European countries have national police forces. Right? That's it. I know the RCMP is a national police force, right? And we have provincial police force, and then we got a local police force. Well, in Europe, it doesn't work that way. They're all paid by the federal government, and they're all in their own districts, and they all get funded by the feds.
No, yeah, two things would really help. And that's number one, putting criminals away. We don't need these guys with 10 charges out in the streets creating more crime. That's what they do. We've seen it a million times. And number two, we got to close the borders. We get a lot of immigrants that are criminals. That's all there is to it. I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm not racist. You look at the paper and you see where the crime is coming from. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, it's just it's crime that we haven't seen in this region before.
No, and it's all migrating down from Toronto down to QEW, and it's because we're easy targets.
Yeah,
and then the courts won't put these guys away. They know it, so they just keep doing it.
Yeah, back in the old days, it was criminals committing crimes against criminals. Yeah. Now it's criminals being predators on just the average person.
The average person, old people. You see these people grabbing jewelry off their necks and stuff like that. These are crimes of opportunity, and these people will do it. And it's the same people. You see, every time I see something, I say, go to Bramaladesh and look. You'll find them up there.
Yeah.
Or Mississauga.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just the way it is. It's not racism. It's just the way it is. If you want to find them, go look there. They come down to QEW and do this crap. And when you let in a bunch of refugees that are unvetted from countries that maybe are terrorist countries or whatever, you've got to expect this. And then if you won't incarcerate them or deport them, well, they're going to be running around.
What do you mean? We let them off because it could affect their citizenship status.
That's right.
The guy's here illegal, not illegal. He's here on a visa or on a work visa or trying to apply for permanent residence. And we let the guy out of jail and we didn't charge or whatever it is. I can't remember what the story was. But the judge said, I'm just going to let him out because it's going to negatively impact his citizenship status. Why do we want him as a citizen?
We don't. They used to be called undesirables.
But why do we want this guy?
We don't.
For the audacity of a judge to say that publicly, that we're going to let this guy out because it might affect his citizenship application. It should. He shouldn't be in here. Let's get rid of him.
But see, this is the problem. He's telling you exactly the way these liberal judges think. And I don't know. I keep saying I'd like to see judges elected. Then they're responsible to the people, not to anything else, right? Get them out of there if they're not doing the job. There's laws on the books. They just have to use them to get these guys put in jail for good, but they don't.
Yeah, it's
zero bail.
Yeah,
you be good boy, okay, and out they go right out.
Revolving door.
Yeah, that's what we got. They steal a Lexus, then they get caught. Then they said, "Be a good boy." They let them.
Oh, they make minors steal the cars now.
Yeah. Well, they don't get charged.
Yeah, they don't even get charged. It's just like, okay, whatever. I'm, a couple months probation. Okay,
that would help the police. You're right. That would help the police if you can get the criminals off the streets in the first place. It gives them less they have to deal with.
100% it does. You can't just keep letting them out. There's statistics out there. Like 90% of the crimes committed by 3% of the population. Not even.
Yeah. No, that's always been the case.
Right? So put the guys who are committing the crimes in jail, you're going to have less crime.
How simple is that?
It's cut and dry. It's cut and dry. Very simple.
Oh man, common sense is seldom common.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. Sticking with the region now. Yeah, I heard a rumor that Kim Crater was going to be the regional chair now. Somebody
No,
told me.
no. He's
What happened with that?
He's the interim chair. So since Bradley was in the hospital, they've been all rotating the regional chair position for counselors, and it's Kim's turn up. So Kim announced that he was appointed uh, interim chair, and I guess some people must have taken that as he's been appointed as the chair until the next election by Doug Ford. That didn't happen. No, um, he's just taking the next turn until Ford makes a permanent appointment. So, and I think that Bob Gale is the guy who's going to be in line for that. And I can't disagree. I mean, it's a good out of the counselors that are on the that are there right now for taxpayers. This could be a good thing. The problem I think Bob's going to have. Okay, I like Bob. I think he's going to do. I think he's the guy who can kind of turn things around. The problem is that he doesn't get a vote on everything, and the chairs, it's mostly ceremonial, right? Which is I'd rather have Bob as a CAO, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like if Bob was a CAO of the region, I think that would be fireworks. I think that would be really good because to be honest with you, the CAO is the guy with all the power.
It really is,
right? So so if Bob was CAO, I kind of like that. But I mean, okay, fine. He's going to be regional chair. I think he can set a direction. Hopefully, and I hope that he doesn't try to play too nice with some of these Looney Tune leftists over there. Like,
yep.
Bateman.
Bateman.
Yeah, and there's a few other ones too.
Yeah, there's a few
other ones. But like, I hope he doesn't have to play. I don't hope he doesn't try to play too nice. I hope he tries to move them in a direction. The way he does things, he has done things in the past. I mean, he came up with that proposal back in the day with cap increases, property tax increases, which they shot down, and the bureaucracy hates him because Bob was asking them too many questions. I mean, and then Bob I think Bob went into a shell kind of to insulate himself from all that negative stuff. And he's kind of been muffled. I hope he doesn't allow them to now, because now he's going to be in a position where he doesn't have to worry about people voting for him. You know what I mean? And I hope he's going to be a little bit more vocal on behalf of the taxpayer. We'll see. I'm like I said, I'm not upset about Bob being a thing. I think he's the best choice on that council right now. So I just hope that he comes back out of that shell and comes and becomes the Bob Gale that he's always been. Like, I know him that he could be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
When I first saw Bradley die, my first thought was Bob Gale. That would be my choice, Bob Gale. I didn't know if maybe because he's chairman of the Parks Commission, Ford would want to keep him there doing good things, or he would. I don't think he could do both. Not that he couldn't legally. I just think it would be a lot on his plate to run the region and the Niagara Parks.
I mean, the Parks has been in a pretty good direction for the last few years, right? They've been okay. They've been doing all right. So I think the regional chair job is actually a good position for Bob. But like I said, I'm more of a, I know it's a lot of ceremony there. I mean, it's not, and he's so the chair is just not an effective enough position. Like, I know Bob would like to do things, right? And I just don't know that he's going to have a cooperative CAO or a cooperative bureaucracy. Now, if he was CAO, he could make them cooperate. You understand? So that's the difference between being the chair and being the CAO. Like, the chair still has to kind of massage the CAO to do what he wants, and the CAO's got to implement, and then the CAO's got to take the tough actions. But Bob is the guy I would put in to take tough actions. Like, if there was a place that I would appoint Bob, it'd be CAO. I'd say, Bob, you're CAO. That's it.
Take care of business.
Take care of business. And he would. I know he would.
Yeah.
Right?
He's good. He's good. I like
so
Bob.
When you're in that ceremonial position, though, you got to play politics. You know, you got to be nice to this person. You got to be nice to that person. You got to be whatever. You know, it's different.
Yeah, you're dealing with the province. You're dealing with, there's a lot of different people coming at you for sure when you're in that position. But, I mean, I don't even know what he would do with the 11.5% for the police, because the board said they approved it. Now we'll see what council says.
Well, when Bob was on the police board, he tried to shut him down.
Yeah, he did.
He did. He tried to close that down.
Didn't
and the problem is he got so much blowback from that.
Didn't he buy out the police chief though for $1 million or something?
Well, he did. But I mean, it was necessary. The guy wasn't cooperating.
Yeah.
But then the guy came after him, didn't cooperate.
No.
So
we got this guy who's not.
So I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know. Like I said, it's tough. It's tough to be in a ceremonial position as chair, as this, as that. He's chair of the police board. He's chair of the chair. So you actually got to be the guy who can make the cuts, and the guy who can do that is the CAO, right? So, but anyways, like I said, Bob's going to be in the regional chair. At least he can try to set a direction. Hopefully he can. Hopefully he can try to talk reason from the chair's position to people. It's a little bit more of an influential position, especially when you've been appointed by the province. So maybe my fingers are crossed for Bob. Anyways, I want him to do well. I hope that he is able to go in there, get them to kind of be more reasonable when it comes to tax increases. I mean, folks, it's 7% a year over the last 4 years. Compounded, that's 30%. Water rates 30%. Transit fees 20%. So waste fees 20%. So we need to put the brakes on these year over year 7% increases, and I think Bob might be able to influence that. My fingers are crossed. Anyways, I'm hoping.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see how many of the departments come in at 3.5%.
I can't see. Anyways, 3.5 is too much. I don't agree with any. Like I've said many times on this podcast before, I don't agree with.
I like this number right
here.
Yeah, zero.
I don't agree with any increase, because what they never tell you is that the capital budget expenses, that they tell you they have to raise property taxes by 2% to deal with the capital budget increases. These things expire, so they fund it, and once it's funded, once it's paid for, once that project is paid for, that 2% doesn't come out of the budget. So they don't reduce your property taxes. They leave it in, and then they ask you for another 2% for the next capital budget.
It's compounded,
right? So that's why it feels like your property taxes are gone up so high lately, because they're spending so much money on capital expenses, and they're raising your rates to compensate for them, but they never take them out once the thing is funded. So, and it's not keeping up. So they're not making adjustments in their budget asks. They just keep asking for more and more and more and more. It doesn't make any sense.
I swear to God, what they do is they take this year's budget and they said, add 10% to everything, and then let's give it to council. I don't think they change anything.
That's right. No, that is give me your wish list budget, and then we start cutting from that.
Okay, speaking of that, I got a message here. Can't wait to hear about local budget and NF Fire, Niagara Falls Fire Department. Curious about your positions on amalgamation of fire services and fire dispatch services across Niagara, Lincoln, Grimsby. We're recognized for their amalgamation of these services. We have one EMS and one Niagara Regional Police Service. All levels of government need to reduce in the number of people work for them. Since COVID, we have seen a huge increase in the number of people employed with public service. Niagara has seen a 10% increase across all municipalities in the last several years. And not just Niagara Regional Police System. Wait until you hear about Niagara Regional Transit increase, which has been 2 to 3 times the rate of inflation each year. Great idea regarding federal requests for funds for the police. Bob Gales voted for former police chief to be paid almost $1 million payout. His back to office position, which mirrors Ford's, will cost taxpayers dearly. 100% agree these tax increases at 3 to 4 times the rate of inflation is wrong. So we're going to get to the city budget. We're going to talk about the police budget. We're going to talk about the city budget that's coming up as well. So in that regard, let me get to my last sponsor, Hamill Machine Company. Then we're going to get into the city budget that's coming up in 3 weeks. Now, since 1948, Hamill Machine Company has been delivering service to industries across the Niagara region, and as a matter of fact, across the world. Why? Because they are who industry turns to when they have a problem with any of their machinery or equipment. Now, when something breaks down these days, you might have to get parts from all over the world: China, Taiwan, Germany, South America. You never know where they're coming from. They're not manufactured in North America like they used to be. So companies don't have time to get out and order these parts. They need the machine fixed quick because time is money today. When that machine's not producing, that company's losing money. That's where Bob Benner and Hamill Machine Company and the staff go in there. They're trained, they're qualified, they're technicians. They go in and not only can they fix the part, they can reverse engineer a new part if needed with their 3D printers and their water jet cutters, or they can make the part better. And usually they try to make the part work better because more production is more money. And they've done it for the wine industry, the food industry, also the agricultural product industry. They ship their innovations around the world because they don't only repair parts, they make them better. Hamill Machine Company since 1948. Go to their website, hamillmachine.ca. You can see the great work that they do. And they haven't forgot about the little guys. If you need something done around the house, fabricated, planned, whatever, don't forget, give Hamill Machine Company a call. They will be able to help you. Thank you for supporting our sponsors because they support the show. Okay, let's get over to the city budget. Now, they're talking about a 6% increase coming down on the November 27th meeting, which starts the process to pass the mayor's capital budget. 6% after a 4.9, 7.9, 4.9, 4.9. We're looking at 25 to 30% over the last 5 years, Chris. Mm-hmm. It's unsustainable. And a big part of their budget is the fire department sitting at around $30 million. Mm-hmm. And here's what really makes me mad. City council wants to move the dispatch. So they said, yes, we're going to move it to St. Catharines. And now the union wants to sue the city for moving it. Yeah. We asked for one thing. They want $3 million fire trucks. They get it. We asked for one concession. We're going to move the dispatch. And they're going to sue the city. That's their response. They just drive me nuts.
Look, but well, you see, this is... so this is where I think I can disagree with the move to St. Catharines.
Okay, go ahead. And here's I haven't heard that one.
Here's the reason. Anything that pushes us, and I know that your commenter there said something about amalgamation. Anything that pushes us towards amalgamation of fire services, to me, is not what we should be doing. I don't want amalgamation across the region of services. What I want is the region gone, and I want 4 cities that conduct their own business. For the fire department, if you were to amalgamate services across the region, you would have rural areas paying massive property taxes to support fire services in urban centers, right? Currently, most rural areas have a volunteer force, right?
Yes, that's
so
true.
Their firefighting costs are a lot less. And they can't afford, they would have exponential increases in property taxes in those rural areas. And they wouldn't be serviced as well because we would be forced to shut down a lot of these rural departments. And to that effect, I'm sure that the firefighters union, in some respects, likes the fact that they would be amalgamated, right? Because then they got more members all over the region, and it's a thing. But I will say this: look, firefighters are paid very well. They are the large part of the city budget, as police are the largest part of the regional budget. And you can see you can see how amalgamated services work just by looking at the police, and you can look at underserviced rural areas as opposed to the higher serviced urban areas. Okay, and what the per capita responsibility of police service the portions are across all the 12 municipalities of Niagara, and you will find that disproportionately the smaller towns and rural areas pay more disproportionately by a large amount, actually, uh, that for policing than the urban centers do. Okay, so I don't think it's a fair system to amalgamate the whole thing across the board. That's number one. So if something like this kind of pushes us in that direction, I'm against it. Okay, even if it costs us a little bit more to have it locally, I prefer it locally.
We're talking about a lot more.
Like how much more?
We're talking about like about $1.5 million
To have dispatch in
because-
Niagara Falls?
Yes, because what we need is not only the next generation 911, 911, which is upgrading our system that can't comply with what the province says. They figure they have to hire another full-time dispatch to be able to do it. So now you need 2 people, and you have to upgrade our system. Whereas if you move to St. Catharines, you have none of that.
So what's 2 people cost you?
Well, the fire department probably 150, 160,000 plus benefits.
Okay, so
maybe more. I don't know.
If that's the case, well, for Niagara, does it improve our service to have it locally?
No.
No,
I don't because know. With technology, it doesn't matter where you have it.
You know, when I'm looking at the greater, like I said, the greater effectiveness and the greater costs, anything that pushes us towards amalgamation of Niagara under the region is something that I fight against because it costs us a lot more down the road. I would bite the bullet, pay for the dispatch, and keep our services separate. So that way we are still separate when I'm hoping the dissolution of the region comes, and I'm hoping that because there's two factions, there's two philosophies on amalgamation or de-amalgamation or whatever. There's the 4-city faction, which is I'm part of, and then there's the 1-city faction, which would center all the power in St. Catharines.
Right.
So I would be completely opposed to anything that pushes us towards amalgamation. I'm opposed to the dissolution. I'm opposed to 1-city. I think it would be the absolute death of us. And I was opposed to the transit amalgamation. Okay, didn't like that. I didn't like that, and we're paying for it now.
Oh, like, double,
right? So I can't see any positive down the road for amalgamating these services. Keep it in Niagara Falls, and then when the province grows a backbone and finally comes down and gets rid of the region and puts us into 4 cities, Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Fort Erie can amalgamate at that time.
So how do you make the fire department affordable? Because it's getting to the point where it's not just Niagara
Falls. It's one of those things that's it's never going to be affordable. It's just never going to be affordable. Now, can you kind of negotiate where it doesn't become completely ridiculous? I mean, some people think it is already. I'm like, okay, so we've been living with it right now, but we, so like I said, I'm against percentage increases in salaries. And, maybe the union's going to hate me for this, and maybe the firefighters going to hate me for this. But, if inflation rate is 3% and you're getting a cost of living increase in your salary, for a firefighter who's making $120,000 a year, inflation is not 3%. Okay, inflation is based on someone who makes $55,000 a year, not someone who makes $120,000 a year.
Good point.
So if your cost of living increase is at 3%, it's not. That's for someone who's so at 120,000, it's like 1.3%. So that should be your increase for the year. Okay, so and I understand that people they get well inflation's got my I got to put gas in my boat. Well, I didn't tell you to buy the boat.
Yeah,
right. We all got to live. We all got to live within our means. Okay.
True enough.
So if the guy at 55,000 is getting $1,500 a year, that's what you should be getting, $1,500 a year. Okay, and that's how you keep the wage gap from, and that's how you keep people from getting upset at firefighters for making so much money. Because if they're getting the increases at the same amount of dollars, it doesn't really matter, right? It's when they see the firefighter getting $8,000 more a year, and they're only getting $1,500 more a year, that they get upset about that. So it's you have to be reasonable in the way things are negotiated. And like, I got no problem. Okay, fine. We got to pay firefighters well. Okay, great. We have to pay cops well because we don't want them to be corrupt. Okay, great. It's part of doing business. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we need to mitigate the increases, right? So you can't just willy nilly just give everybody whatever they want, whatever they're asking for. And it's just a reasonable position. I don't know. I don't begrudge anybody getting raises, and I don't begrudge anybody. I want sustainable increases and sustainable life for everybody who's living in the city or in the region or whatever. There's a way to raise things without becoming too burdensome on the lower income individuals.
Now this I got another one here. Niagara Falls is one of the most expensive fire services across the country for a city the size of Niagara Falls. City of Hamilton amalgamated fire services and still maintain their volunteer program in rural areas. In addition, Dr. Marvin Ryder noted amalgamation of fire services in Hamilton not only saved millions of dollars, but created many more efficiencies. City of St. Catharines services municipalities all across Ontario for the dispatch, and they do it well. They have all the technology and everything already in place. The methodology from your guest, that's you.
Mm-hmm. That's me. I'm the guest.
We should be separating police and EMS, which would be way costlier. Look at the cost to be amalgamate the region of Peel, and it was off the charts expensive. Getting rid of region would be really expensive. Your guest is saying only increase firefighter salary by less than inflation.
Not less than inflation.
Arbitration would never allow that.
So it's not less than inflation. That's where you're mistaken.
Okay? You didn't say that. You said
I said at the inflation rate, but the inflation rate is pegged to $55,000.
There you go.
Okay, the consumer price index. That's pegged at 55. The average income. Firefighters make far more than that. So you don't peg an inflationary increase to 120,000 because that guy's getting $3,600 and the guy making 55,000 is getting $1,500 or $1,800. So the consumer price index, because everybody uses the same amount of toilet paper, everybody uses, or maybe not, I don't know, but everybody uses
some are full of it.
Yeah, same amount of soap and shampoo and everyday products. But it's not our job to fund cottages and boats and second jobs and a nice brand new truck and all that other stuff. Okay, it's the job of the taxpayer to fund the cost of living increase. And the cost of living increase is based on $55,000 a year. So if you got a 3% cost of living increase, that's whatever it is. That's $1,650. Okay, $1,650. So the guy making $120,000, his cost of living increase is also $1,650. Okay, it's not based on his salary. It's based on the guy who's $55,000 because that's what the consumer price index is. So that's where we've gone wrong, and you have to peg that the right way. You have to do the right math there. Secondly, as far as amalgamation goes, no. So they used it as an excuse to get rid of the amalgamation, but no, amalgamation does not cost more. It saves you money in the long run. So yes, there is some short-term pain. Absolutely, there is. You need to separate services. There's different things, but Niagara still, because of the way we were structured back in the day, we still have a lot of separation of services. So it doesn't cost as much as you think it does. And the reason that it costs so much is all the buyouts. But I'll let you know to your thing. So Doug Ford got rid of the planning departments in the region. Okay, they put it back to the municipality. There's no more planning department in the region. Planning all goes through each municipality now again. But what did the region do? So there was 52 people working in the planning department in the region. Do you think they laid off one person?
No.
No, they didn't. They just reassigned them to other jobs. Now we have a vice CAO, okay, at the region. We have a vice this, a vice that. We put them in other departments where they weren't needed. We weren't even hiring. So the region itself is a monolith. Okay, it sucks us dry. If we get rid of it, yes, it costs you long term because you have to buy out everybody and then you have to separate the services and whatever. Transit can remain as it is. You don't have to separate police. Police gets run by the board. It doesn't matter. All municipalities would get a member on the board, and there would be civilians on the board, and that's it. It gets run the same way it's run today. Same with transit, would be run the same way today. Ambulance, EMS would be run the same way it is today. You don't have to actually separate those things. You can have multiple municipality buy-in, okay, on certain programs. Waste, if you think it's advantageous to keep waste as a single entity, you have a waste board. And if you want to have a water board for shared water services, now the 4-city proposal, which has Niagara on the Lake, Niagara Falls, and Fort Erie, is actually naturally on its own. Doesn't share any services with across the canal, right?
No.
So it's kind of all on its own. And then you got some shared services between Thorold and St. Catharines. You've got some shared services but in the other proposal, you've got it's Thorold, Welland, Port Colborne as one city as well, right? Because they share the canal. So so that's the proposal. And St. Catharines would stay on its own, and then you'd have the Lincoln, West Lincoln cities.
Yeah,
right?
So you'd have Niagara, and then Welland, Port Colborne,
and Thorold,
and
St. Catharines on its own, and then the western municipalities sharing their services.
Beamsville, Grimsby, West Lincoln.
And if you wanted to maintain, each municipality could choose which boards they want to share, which services they want to share or not share. What's advantageous to share, what's cost savings, what's not. It's always better to have less government. So if you reduce the amount of government or the levels of government, better that way. So you need a representation in order to effectively govern. So it's not as you say more expensive to get rid of a region. Peel and whatever went on there. I don't know what kind of funny business went on. That's Patrick Brown and Doug Ford. They don't really get along, So I don't know. Who knows what the backroom stuff was there. That's not really the case. It could be some short-term pain. You do have to pay out up front, but long-term, it'd be a gain for us all, for sure.
There you go. So that's it. We're out of time here, but we're going to wait for the city budget. The capital budget comes on the 27th of November, and then they're going to finalize it in December, the first week of December meeting. I think it's the 6th or something like that. And then we move on to the new year in January, we'll do the operations budget. So stay tuned for those. We'll see what's happening. We're looking down the barrel of a 6% increase in Niagara Falls. They said, I doubt if they'll come in with that. But I still think, personally, that the fire department, even if we kept dispatch and we paid the money for that, I still think there are a lot of savings. I think we could save $5 million from their budget.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't really looked at that specific service. Look, right across any service, you can probably find efficiencies if you wanted
Definitely.
to. Okay. You couldn't say that things are running 100% efficient. You can't say that. That's impossible to do, right? Or not even to do, but it's impossible to say because there's always something to be saved if you look hard enough and if you try hard enough, right?
But I think the guy on the phone here, I think that's Al McKay from Property Taxpayers Alliance.
Yeah,
I think it is. I can't be sure, but at the end of the day, though, I think that there's a lot of things we can do to the fire department to drop that budget.
There's a lot of things we can do right across the city.
Yeah, like we got 5 departments that we need to take care of and look at closely because you just can't keep raising taxes on it. We got to find efficiency somewhere.
Yeah.
They gotta come up with something. You can't just say every year it's going to be 5% from now to eternity. I mean, we can't do it. Taxpayers are getting hammered now, and you know it. It affects everything. We talk about taxes.
Absolutely everything. It's a systemic inflationary pressure. That's what taxes are.
So we've got to find a way to mitigate these taxes. And there should be no department that is sacrosanct that we can't look at, including the fire department. I know nobody likes to touch them, but they're just another department in Niagara Falls, and they're our most expensive department, and they're the ones that I think we can look to, whether it's hiring more EMS to deal with it than firefighters, because we have 1% of the calls are for fires or fire related, 99% are for medical issues. So that tells me we need more EMS, not more firefighters.
Well, the firefighters' answer to that is to absorb to absorb the EMS into their service.
Well, that's fine.
No, it's not fine, because then you'd have to pay EMS at the rate of a firefighter.
Well, no, EMS is EMS.
No,
firefighter. But but we don't want that.
Well, that's what they want.
Well, that's what sure they do.
That's what happens when you do amalgamation.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Okay.
We want to hire more EMS. Firefighters take the calls because there's no EMS available. But if there was a dozen cars or ambulances with EMS in it, then they'd be able to take the calls, right? So, but these are the things that I'm not saying that it would save money. All I'm saying is that we have to look at them across the board to find efficiencies. And if nobody's willing to look at them because they're afraid of the union, firefighters or the police union or any other union, if nobody's willing to look at them, me and you you got lots of money. So
no, I don't. I do
you.
not.
It's going to affect you more.
I get sucked dry every day.
But we're all gonna have to pay the tab. That's it. So if you're happy paying the tab, well, that's the way it is.
No, that's it. I mean, I don't know. EMS can be it can improve greatly if we just improve the emergency room offloading.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They got to have 8 guys in there sitting there waiting until they offload the patients. That's why we're running short.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen 4 ambulances there, and these people can't get admitted. They're lying in the hallway, and the ambulance people have to stay with them until they can get admitted and be taken care of by staff.
Yeah, they have to hand them off.
So
you got all your EMS sitting at the hospital when they should be out on the road dealing with emergencies.
Well, our new hospital maybe helps solve that problem.
No, I don't think it does.
No,
because you still got to wait. You still got to have the hospital staff to deal with it.
There you go. So there's money that has to be spent, but we might not be spending it on the right areas.
Everything costs money.
Okay, we're out of here. Anyway, thanks for coming in, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
Always great to have you here. And we'll get you in again after this budget comes down and as we get closer. When's the regional budget coming down?
I don't even know exactly when it's going to be. Sometimes they try. It's been very quiet lately. They floated out some increases for water and this and that, and I was like, what are you doing? More water increases. That's expensive.
Well, what we say, when they're quiet, it's going to cost us money.
It's going to cost us for sure. I guarantee it's going to be around 5.5%. They're going to even think that you're doing a good job because it's not the 7% it was for the last 4 years.
Yeah, there you go. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Paul K. Lemire. This is my guest, Chris RIGAS. We're in the studios of 4680Q. Your City, Your Voice is the name of the show. And as we watch the KC-135 super tankers practicing in Niagara Falls, New York, and getting ready to go to Venezuela, we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like, don't like, leave comments. Thank you for the comment. I think that was Al McKay for Property Taxpayers Alliance on the text here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Support our sponsors, Wild Bill's Auto Repair Body Shop, Pete's Pizza, Victoria Avenue, and Hamill Machine Company. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow with Absolutely All Habs All Show. That's the show tomorrow. And back on Thursday with Straight Talk Thursday to discuss more of this stuff. Guaranteed. There's so much happening in the world right now that we're going to get into that a little bit more in the city, but I always find something to cry about when I look at the city.
No.
They call me a whiner.
Well, I don't know. I whine about stuff too.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about. Thanks for tuning in.
I whine about stuff, for sure.
Have a great day. Take care.